one thing I learned about police police departments and police officers across the nation is that we're all the same, just different accents. So there's two things that policemen hate. One is when things change, and the other is when things stay the same.
Welcome back to the IA Guy Police Podcast here with your host, Marlon Marrache. Today, man, look, all guests are special. We already got that out of the way. We've been doing this for about a year and a half. But you know what? I had to go to Miami, or Miami had to come to LA. Hey, Nick, let me ask you right off the bat, bro, because I know that you were a DJ and you got some comedy and, you work with the youth. But what was your go-to song when you DJ'd back in the days?
Man, I was old school. I like the old school stuff. The freestyle, Debbie Deb, look how we can go, like stuff like that.
Trenier, you like Trenier too?
Yeah, I like all the old school stuff.
Yes.
Diamond Girl. Thing is, not everyone liked it, so I had to mix it in there. Play a little to the crowd, whatever it was. But I would say some old school stuff if I could put it in there. Like, give me that big old butt, donkey butt, them big old legs. I ain't too hard to beg. Ain't no shame in this game. So stuff like that.
Stuff like that. I got you, man. But hey, let me ask you this: West Coast or East Coast? Because I know you're a big Snoop fan. You're a big Ice Cube, NWA fan. You love all that West Coast. But compare that to the East Coast. Give me your favorite East Coast hip hop rap you like.
Coast, I used to like Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Okay.
Boom, 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 boom. I used to like all those. Let's see. I was in gangster rap. I was a gangster.
Okay.
What else? Man,
well, give me East Coast, bro.
I like the West Coast stuff. You got the cliche Biggie. Can't say Diddy anymore.
Yeah. No, we can't say that.
But the cliche like Biggie, Mace.
Okay. I'm waiting for you to drop my fave, but I'm gonna help you out because you got to have tribe in your life. You have to have tribe in your life.
Yeah, I'm a fan of like just music in general. There's a new Coast Contra. You heard of Coast Contra before?
I'm all tribe, bro. Sorry.
If you like old school music, it's new cats that are singing the old school or rapping the old school way. Coast Contra, look them up. They're fire. One of their most viral songs, they're sitting at a podcast table and they're just each taking turns.
Okay.
Oh man, it is fire. So I'm a fan of the old school stuff. Back in my day type of stuff.
Okay.
But I can go with Onyx. You remember Onyx?
Of course.
Slam, yeah. So
come on, bro.
I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan of all types of music.
Let's go.
And as I got older, I'm getting more into country music. So it's a little bit of a thing now.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you have that. My daughter introduced me to Travis Scott, and I love me some T. Scott, man. And that's about it. I mean, my playlist is, I have a West Coast playlist on Spotify and an East Coast, and I can never get enough of Tribe. Q-Tip is that's my dude. That's my guy. You can never go wrong. My daughter is even, we're sitting here. Okay. All right. Midnight Marauders. But anyways, we can have a whole conversation about that. Hey, man, look, I appreciate you at Scene Code 6. I know you and I have been talking about for a while to get you on. We want to get to know your journey. We want to get to know you. And, of course, as you know, this used to be the Internal Affairs a Police podcast. And somewhere down in my journey, I had to kind of brand myself. And one of my guests said, hey, my sister keeps referring you as the IA guy. Like, when does that episode drop? And what's going on with that IA guy? And you know what?
Yeah.
I stuck with it and I went. My first question to you right off the bat is, when you saw the Internal Affairs a Police podcast or anything related to IA, if you will, what were your first thoughts, bro?
With coming on here and speaking to you?
Or just in general, when you actually saw, who the hell is this IA guy? Or if you actually saw the Internal Affairs a Police podcast, what hit off the bat? Or was there a light bulb? Or what did you think?
coming from a guy who's my job at the agency is like PR a little bit. I just from when you speak about IA, it's almost like you're airing the dirty laundry. So when I see a podcast about it, it's gonna be juicy. You know, you're gonna hear some stories. It's just like, oh man, that's it's not it's there's no one else out there doing it. So you definitely have a niche within a niche, right? So you had the police niche that came around. I want to say like probably 2014, maybe
Okay.
2015.
Okay.
And then you took that sliver of IA where kind of people were like a little taboo-ish, and you dove right in. And I think you're doing a great job, to be honest. I think it's a good thing for the public to hear
Yeah.
about the inner workings and the entirety of police work, right? Because we've got to be held accountable, and not knowing that there's I will say police within a police.
Right.
Just a regular Joe Schmo might not know about that, and this brings light to it. And you can hear some of the stories about IA investigations of the past to show that there's a part of the system that's holding us accountable.
100%. And I will add on that, you know what, it's a function that it's kind of forgotten, right? We don't talk about IA investigations. We don't talk about accused employees that have gone through the process. More important than anything, and it's one of many reasons why I decided to launch it, is the fact that you're a PIO guy. I used to work as a PIO as well. You know, we do a very good job with informing the public with that buzzword transparency, right? We're very transparent with everything that we do, critical incidents, OISs, community events, et cetera, et cetera. But how transparent are we amongst ourselves? And that's kind of the reason why I decided it's, you know what, let's move forward and, you know what, chop it up and talk about something that, hey, we either hold you accountable or we hold the department accountable, but hey, let's get some lessons learned. What do you think?
No, I agree. It's kind of like touching the fire, right? If I can tell my fellow officers that I stand with, or now across the nation, across the world, Mr. Worldwide, about the fire being hot. Hey, don't touch that fire there. I got burned. And then somebody can take that, and say, hey, I remember Nick said something about that fire being hot. Let's not go down that road and do that. So I think it's good to bring light to the subject, especially educating officers, and maybe they just didn't know that, they should know. Shame on them. They should know their policies, but maybe they didn't, right? Yeah. And they can see and learn from other people's mistakes. That's one of the it's more for training purposes, right?
100%. And you know what? That just kind of segues into my first question that I got to ask you. Look, you came into the academy, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2007. Would that be correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in 2007, here you are in the academy. And then next thing you know, you're on probation and you got all your field training officers, your FTOs. What was your impression of internal affairs back in 2007 compared to today, 2025? And has that impression changed? How so, if any?
So, you ever seen Green Mile?
Yes.
So getting called to internal affairs is walking a mile, walking a mile, walking a green mile. When you were younger, I guess a younger tenure, right? Anything first time where your job is on the line, you can possibly lose your job, go to jail, right? So this work that we do, this profession that we do, we can take somebody's life away, their liberty away. At the same time, if you mess up, you can go to jail yourself.
Correct.
So anytime you're going into an office that, hey, has the potential to end me, my career, bad things can happen, even though you know that you're okay, that you really didn't do anything, there's just still that, oh man, right? And in the beginning, I was obviously timid. Nobody wanted to go. We shall not mention his name. No one wants to go to IA. But after going, as long as you had your ducks in a row and you were abiding by your policy, doing everything that you should be doing, you really have nothing to worry about, because in the line of police work, it's not pretty, right? You have to put your hands on people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, you make arrests. People are not happy and they're going to complain either way. So if you're out there doing your job, you expect complaints, and that's just the way it is. So you have to get used to going to IA and just say what happened. I was fortunate enough to patrol back when there was no body cameras.
Correct.
I I went into the an administrative position when we introduced body cameras, and I have not been able to work with body cameras.
Right.
So I was go in and I would have to tell my side of the story, even though there was no evidence there. Man, and people are worried, scared about body cameras. I wish I worked. Well, I can still go out there. Let's not. I very
Don't get it
much can still
twisted.
go out and patrol.
Do not get it twisted. You and I can.
Yeah, I can.
We can
I
push
can
the
very
sled
much
right
still go
now.
out. Yeah, and I wouldn't mind. I really miss it. I love the streets. No problem going back to the street whatsoever. However, I always see it as this is evidence that will exonerate you or tell the truth. It's
Correct.
a good tool. As long as you're doing the right thing, you have nothing to worry about. So these days, I'm not too worried about internal affairs. I know that I do what I got to do right, and if I messed up, I own up to it and get my pals and move on. That's just the name of the game nowadays.
Nick, let me ask you this: if do you think, here we are, and I know we're going to talk about this later on, you're a candidate or you're in the academy. Do you think it's valuable for someone to come in and explain what internal affairs does, and or maybe have someone who can speak in front of everybody and say, hey, man, look, I got I-8 and this is what happened to me. I just want to make sure, and you guys learn that, don't let what happened to me happen to you. What do you think?
I think it's well, at my agency we do that. We bring every unit to the recruits and get them acclimated to what they do. They give the detectives, whoever's coming in to speak to the recruits, gives the phone numbers to them and say, if you got any questions, call me. If you want further questions after the presentation, call me. So after the academy, we kind of have like a month or so where they're just getting acclimated to the agency, and that's when that happened. I think it's really important, right? Because if you don't do that, you run into the chance of the salty guy telling the recruits about IA, or somebody that feels like they've been wronged by IA telling them about IA, and they can get the wrong perception of what IA actually is, right?
No, 100%. I think spot on. I think it's super important to, and you're probably the only guest that I've had where the agency, allows all the units to come in and kind of familiarize yourself with that function. And of course, I'm a little biased because I always felt like this function is just kind of forgotten. Let me kind of, and I know you and I have been talking about this, the quote that I always use, look, the punishment's not the penalty, the punishment is the process. Would that be pretty accurate, knowing, not just you, I'm talking about in your career, you've seen people go through process. You probably know of a classmate or maybe a partner that has gotten IA'd, it's serious allegations of misconduct, and guess what? I can't talk to you anymore. What do you think?
There's definitely we're told that you can't speak if there's an ongoing investigation anyways about the investigation. So that's one thing that kind of says, man, I don't want to get into that. And if this person decides to start running their mouth, I don't want to be around hearing all the details about this open investigation. That's one thing. The other thing is you do say, hey, if you need anything, let me know. Yeah, let me know. It's just 18 years. You've seen people go through the process. You've seen them come out clean. You also seen them. I've seen people get put away doing federal time right now in federal prison. Yeah. And you'd be like, really, that guy? Oh, that was my guy. What happened there? So it's just, you never know what the person's doing. And this day and age is kind of like, man, let me know if you need anything. That's a path, that sucks that you're on. Unfortunately, that's just the name of the game in the profession that we're in.
Yeah, it's. I totally agree with the difference of, hey, I don't really want to get to know what's going on. 1, 2, more important than anything, I've always felt or believed that if you're an IA, Nick, I would call you, even as an investigating officer, like I'm the investigator from IA, I'll call you and say, hey, Nick, you know what? In 2 weeks, we're going to set up our compelled interview, get a hold of your rep, get a hold of your attorney, then call you up and say, okay, Nick, you know what? In 2 weeks, I'm going to turn it into my lieutenant. hey, Nick, you know what? It's at the lieutenant right now. They're reviewing it. Might get a kickback for grammar, formatting, whatever. And just kind of walk you through through that dark alley, through this whole process, because I really, truly feel that we just don't do that. We just kind of, one thing, you're my best friend. And, and here's the kicker. We are the thin blue line. We're one big happy family. And in reality, when it comes to this function, we're hypocrites. What do you think?
I would have to say I like your communication. I've 18 years proactive police officer, been to IA a couple of times. The process of the updating, there might be a little bit of lack of communication there, and I can see where that, for an officer, the stress level goes through the roof, because you're like, what's happening next? What's happening next? Oh my God. Oh my God. Like I said, your career is on the line.
Yes.
And if you get fired, good luck. Trying to get your job back, even if you want it back, right? If you were wrongly accused. And, a lot of times, and it's not specific to my agency, but I noticed that officers will get fired from a knee-jerk reaction from a chief because they don't want to, they're trying to appease an audience, because they see the things that are going on social media, specifically with use of force, right? Justified use of force. And they're like, nope, you're gone. And now that officer, something like that is like, home team to the guy who got fired if it's by policy. And again, this is speaking from things that I've seen on the internet and seen, not specifically at my agency, but those type of cases, I'm just like, that's not right, right? Trying to appease. If by the policy, then change the policy, if that's your case. But right now, these guys are operating under the policy, and you decided to fire them because you were worried about what people were going to say out there, right? So that's one thing that I'm just like, I don't agree with that.
Well, I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you with some good buzzwords. What you're definitely saying, and I agree with this, is the fact that some internal affairs investigations, let's take a use of force, a major, tune-up, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes they're either process-driven or outcome-based. That's where we go wrong, because if it's outcome-based, then you're right. Maybe there is influences from from the community, from the chief, self-serving, so on and so forth. And I really think, thank you enough for sharing that all with me, man. Let's get to some good stuff, because got a couple of more questions before we have some more fun with this.
Yeah.
If you're in a room full of sergeants today, right now, Nick, you got the podium, little DJ, whatever, you take a break. You have sergeants that are getting ready to begin their internal affairs assignment. What's the one thing you want them to know about that job?
Their internal affairs assignment. I would just say, know the difference between a mistake of the heart and a mistake of the mind, right? Meaning you could just have a brain fart out there, and yes, you messed up. Wasn't malicious, it's just a mess up. And then mistake of the heart is the character, that person being malicious and that person should be eventually removed, right? Or figure out how to go that way. But if you can, right, just remember that time, because if you're a sergeant in IA, there was a time that you were an officer and there was some things that you might have messed up with. And if you can, work with that person. Yeah. Obviously, if they have to be punished or reprimanded or whatever it is what it is. But don't throw the book at them. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Hey, you were there on that. You were doing the same thing. Obviously, if it's breaking the law or something like that, they need to go.
Yeah, no,
but
totally.
It's, the guy wasn't wearing a seatbelt on the call. Come on. How many times did you not wear your seatbelt when you responded to a call, right?
That's right.
And just don't, if you're there reviewing the body camera footage for a complaint because he used a curse word on the scene, and then you're reviewing the footage and you notice when he gets out of the car, he didn't have his seatbelt on. But he didn't say no curse words. why are you tagging the guy for the seatbelt? That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, totally. Hey,
I
man,
don't know.
before we talk about your journey, I really appreciate you sharing with that. Talk to me about body-worn video. I know, it's, what do you think? Well, first and foremost, when was body-worn video deployed in your agency, or if you can remember?
I can't remember it, but I want to say we were one of the first ones in our neck of the woods to have it. I can't give you that.
Officers were like, what? Can't believe this. Oh, shit. What do they think?
What's that?
I said, officers must have been like, oh, hell no, or like, what?
Well, like anything, it comes in little by little, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the money. They're testing equipment out. So we see people wearing it. Like, what is that? What is that? And it's like everything has to adjust. Policies have to be made. Then you have to bring somebody. Like, okay, wait, maybe this is too much.
Correct.
And then you can just find that sweet spot of what works, right? So right now, if you've never worked patrol without a body camera, this is just what you're coming into. It's like, this is what it is. It's the older guys that have a little bit more tenure that are, whoa, what is this? But then they move through it, and now it's second nature. It's funny saying that I always quote this from my boy Delrish Moss, Chief Delrish Moss. Says two things that policemen hate. One is when things change, and the other is when things stay the same. So they pretty much hate everything. So it doesn't matter what you do. They just kind of have to push through it with the body camera stuff. They did it, and now there's minimal, if any, complaints about the body cam stuff. It's just second nature right now.
Yeah, no, totally, man. Hey, you know what? Guys like you and I, that have good attitudes, like to have a little fun and, show off the riz, right? To be exact, like them kids say nowadays.
You definitely have the kid. You know all the words.
Got to have the riz, My thinking is, bro, I'd be out there like, my favorite is Dan Patrick. I'd be like a Sports Center sportscaster, colorful analyst, and say, okay, today is 6:52 p.m. We're approaching Mr. Johnson. And you know what? What's the big deal, man? Like you said, look, if you have your ducks in a row, and sometimes you are going to make mistakes of the heart, here in LAPD, we call it tactical foul language. You can take that one from me,
I like it.
And so on and so forth. You know what? Have at it. I think it's great. I will share with you that when LAPD first, I want to say in the early 2000s, when we first got the digital in-car video systems, bro, we used to break off in the South End. This is in South LA's. Dudes were not having it. They used to break off the antennas like, no, we ain't doing this. We ain't doing this. And you're like, bro.
They can access your camera remote.
Yes.
They can look in the dispatch center in the real-time center. They can see. It's a different world.
Yeah,
they have a huge map up, and you can see every officer. You can click on their body camera, open up their body camera. It's just, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. For officer safety issues, this stuff is awesome, but it's double-edged, right?
Yes. Let's talk about a different world, like you just mentioned. Talk to me when you, I don't know, when you're having dinner or you were with your partners or something. You said, you know what? I want to start this police vlogging, if you will. How did that go about, man?
So 2015, I started at my agency with the first police department in the world to have a YouTube vlog.
Okay.
I saw success there. We got a YouTube plaque there. Excuse me. Had recognition all over the world for the police department and the, I guess, cutting edge, edgy, cool videos that we were making. Essentially, it was cops by a cop, right? And not only cops, but you got to see the culture of the police department, meet the officers in a non-traditional PIO way. That was one of the things that I said, I'll do this, but I'm going to be me, and that's the only way that's going to work.
Right.
And even on camera, I wasn't Officer Perez. I was always Nick. And then Nick was then the liaison to the officers, and I would show different officers, and then, hey guys, you like me, right? Meet my friend over here. And then through the years, gained the audience there, and then I said, I think it's time to. Well, actually, I got comments because they wanted to see me tour Florida Highway Patrol's vehicle. I was like, man, I can't do that on my city's dime,
Right.
but I could do it off duty. So I said, let me see how this is going to work. And then I started messing around and going to different agencies and touring their police vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Very safe. Just going to tour the outside, inside, take me around, showcase. I don't do no police work.
Uh-huh.
So at that time, there could have been some hesitation. Who's this guy coming in, riding along? They knew me from my agency, but it's first time working with them. The police cars was very successful. Millions of views. It was something that wasn't being done. Not only that, I named the series Police Cars because the algorithm, I searched Google, who owns police cars? When I searched police cars, it was just kids playing with toys on YouTube. I was like, I'm going to crush this. So I named the series Police Cars because every time you search the word police car, my YouTube videos, because Google owns YouTube, my YouTube videos would come up. So it propelled me and got me around the nation. I was actually with LAPD. I did your guys' Tesla that you had. California Highway Patrol was a big request when I was over there with them. And then it gradually changed to police vlogs. I always said I'm going to start with the cars and go to the vlogs.
Okay.
Police vlogs now is essentially what I was doing at my agency, where I go out, showcase police work, kind of give the backstory on how things operate. You get to meet the officers in a non-traditional PIO ways, like one-on-one. We're laughing, a little smoking and joking, and then we get to business and do our thing. I try to give a perspective from law enforcement. I try to talk to those individuals that might not understand law enforcement. My mission is to educate the public on what we do. I feel like it's just ignorance sometimes. They're just ignorant to what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And police, you mentioned it, IA, no one really talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get educated on it, you understand it, you might not be, as an officer, you say, okay, well, I'm good because I know I've been doing right. So going to IA is that. So now you have the education. So the same thing goes with police work. I try to educate the audience
Mm-hmm.
so that when something happens, and nationally now, right, all over the place, if I have an opportunity to speak on something, I kind of try to educate right there and take that moment to educate. For instance, I gave the statue, you're allowed to pull somebody out of the car on a traffic stop.
Mm-hmm.
Educated them on that. Boom. Just like that. It happened on a Florida Highway Patrol criminal interdiction. Told the guy, get out of the car. No. They ripped him out of the car. Some lawyers that are on Facebook attorneys might say, you can't take him out of the car. So there I see a perfect opportunity to say, why, yes, they can. And here's why. So I take those opportunities to educate so that the next time something happens online or something happens in real life when they're driving, so I saw it on Nick off duty, officers tell me to get out of the car. I better get out of the car.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mission for the agency. For Nick off duty and police vlogs.
Let me ask you, what obstacles or what challenges did you face as you were developing and going through this journey of police cars and vlogging?
I'm a long game man. So I like to play the long game. I've been at this now 10 years. It's 2015 we started at the agency. And I saw myself, when I started, I said, I'll be there. One day I'm going to be vlogging around the nation. I just got back from Arizona. Shout out to Frank Slope from Pinal County Sheriff's Department. Went out there with him Fridays with Frank. So just got back from Arizona Saturday, 2 days ago. Anyways, long story short. The challenges are I take off little bites at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest challenge for me, to be honest, is editing.
Okay.
That's it. Editing. I have a bottleneck. I have about 15 episodes that I've recorded. I don't have the lack of content. On the contrary, I have the lack of editing.
Yeah.
And that's my Achilles heel is the editing. So to go back, I've seen everything that's happening right now already. I saw that on day one. I saw that throughout my career. I saw that throughout this journey on YouTube. I saw where I was going to go. When I started Police Cars, I said, I'm going to start out local and then I'm going to tour the nation. And one day I'll be in Dubai. About a month ago, I get an email from the Dubai Police Department asking me to come over and feature Dubai Police. They're also having a conference. The World Police Conference is happening in Dubai. I saw that, man. It's crazy.
That's
Manifestation
crazy.
is real. I saw that. Unfortunately, I had to turn them down because it just wasn't working out. I have a big release coming up. So it's been a lot of work for my police recruiting app it's called Police Jobs that I'm going to be launching, and I'm sure we're going to get to it.
Yes.
I just had to turn that down. It just wasn't the time, but I saw that happening, and it's crazy to say. I didn't say the Japan National Police or Australia. I said Dubai, and Dubai reached out unsolicited. So it's kind of crazy what it is.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a man of faith. I'm sure you are too. You know, God does his best work through people. I know we're super instrumental in, you know, the success you've had. I applaud you for all that. But let me ask you something about this, because you lack no confidence. Like you said, you manifested all this. Was there any doubt by I suppose your inner circle? Did anybody doubt you? What do you think?
Nah, I don't keep those people around me. You surround yourself with people that want to see you win.
Yes.
And you separate yourself. This is a lonely journey, to be honest.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand the stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And I was with my kids yesterday, and I was just reflecting and saying, this is my circle. These are, I have my daughter and my son, and I was out riding bikes with them, and I'm just looking at them and said, this is my circle. I just flew back from Arizona, went out with them. When I'm done putting them to bed, I'm going to go back to start editing. Yeah. Then I got to wake up the next morning, go to work, do my full time, come back, and I have a podcast. I got to go on the IA Guy podcast. So I got the circle gets tight, right?
Yes.
When you're on this journey, but I feel as though I'm coming to the culmination, at least, of what I started out 10 years ago with what we're going to talk about in a little bit in this podcast.
Yes.
So and you're wondering what it is, it's coming soon.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited to share that. But before I get there, I have to ask you, what have you learned about yourself through this journey thus far? What do you think?
That's a good one. That I could do it, right? Not to be worried about losing the audience, right? If you're doing dope shit, they'll be around. You can take a little break if you're burned out. It's fine. Just continue doing what you do. I hold myself and my content to the highest standard, and I apologize. I should have. I have a mic. I have everything that I need. But I just haven't figured out the streaming stuff. So if the audio is not up to par, that's my bad. But I take pride in the quality of my content that comes out. It also might be why I'm not pumping stuff out, because if it's shit, I don't want to put it out. But anyways, that it can be done, that I take, what the hell was I talking about?
What have you learned about yourself?
What have I learned?
Yeah, self-reflection, man. You said it earlier, you self-reflected. Looking at Nick today compared to Nick in 2015, what's the most you've learned about yourself?
What's crazy is that you don't realize how far you come. If your head's down and you're grinding, then every now and then, like when did I turned 40.
Okay.
I was like, let me see what, and I'm 42 now. Kind of like was like, oh, you're 40, bro. Yeah. What have you been doing? And then you turn around and look how far have you come, because you're down. You're constantly gaining inches and inches and inches, and you're going and you're going and you're going. And after, years, you look back and say, wow, this is pretty cool. I've done a lot of stuff, and, I don't have the money to show for it, but I have the experience, and you can't take away that experience. I've been around. I was with NYPD, LAPD, been all around the nation, doing what I love, creating videos. And one thing I learned about police, that police departments and police officers across the nation, is that we're all the same, just different accents.
Yeah.
There's going to be that guy or that girl. It's just rinse and repeat in every agency's up and down, up and down. You think you have a special person, they're there in other agencies. Yeah. Just the way it is.
That's good, man. Hey, man, thanks for sharing that, man. So let's do it, man. Okay, look, we did vlogging, we've done police cars, and then all of a sudden, here we go with this police app. Talk to me, man. How did that idea come about? And again, I know that you manifested, and you probably saw, the. I'm not going to say so much the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to say something along the lines that you kept your eye on the prize, and you felt as though this application is something that, that we can all use. Talk to me, man. How did that all come about?
All right. So this came about from doing the police vlog stuff, right? So I've been getting a lot of opportunities.
Okay.
Because I have my audience is what I do is I educate on police. So if you're trying to learn, if you're an aspiring police officer, you're going to go out on YouTube and you're going to go research. I learned how to video edit on YouTube. I never went to school for it. So if anyone's trying to learn how to do something, they go straight to YouTube. So what do? I teach about law enforcement. That's my goal. That's my mission. I'm trying to educate, and you take it for whatever purposes you intend. And for that, I have a lot of people that are aspiring to be police that follow me. So when I go to these agencies, one of the things that I do is I say, hey, do you want to ride in this chair? Go to www.thispoliceagency.com and apply today. And their recruitment goes up every single time I go. So I said, okay. So I have people that follow me that want to be police officers.
Okay.
I have agencies. There's a, what is it called? It's not a shortage, but not a pandemic. Sorry, it's been a long day. I had a whole shift.
No. I tell you, you're talking about this recruiting right now is definitely a challenge. We're down, applicants.
Yes. Okay, so there's a recruiting crisis
absolutely
across the nation. Okay, and that recruiting crisis has yet to be solved. Right? There's people are throwing stuff at it. Man, and I had this in my head for 3 years. I want to make an app. I want to make an app. I want to make an app. I'm going to put these recruits, I'm going to put the departments together. So about a year and a half ago, I came across one of my majors, and he talks to me about a former officer lieutenant shout out to American Standard Canine. He left the agency, does YouTube full time. He's killing it in the dog training game. 3 million subscribers on YouTube. The guy's killing it. Garrett Wing says, man, I maybe misspoke a little bit when I gave Garrett Wing advice. Whatever. So I say, hey, you know what? I have something better than that. I have this app idea. And he says, what is it? So we start talking. And within that moment, we start saying, okay, this is the LLC. This is the name of the thing. We're going to start ripping. For a year and a half, we've been developing this app. Going to be announcing it. Actually, this podcast is going to be out. Going to have it
up and running.
Yes. It's called Police Jobs app. So essentially, the recruits are going to go on. They're going to create a profile.
Okay.
Right. And then they're going to have onboarding questions. They're going to have several onboarding questions that's going to help the police agencies find the correct recruits for their agency. So if you want to work in a large department, a sheriff's department, if you're willing to relocate, let's see what else. If you're beard policy, tattoo policies, that's something that you don't want to deal with. Take home cars, so on and so forth. So there's a slew of questions that we asked them prior to getting on the app. On the flip side, the agency is going to put their job listings out there. It's essentially like Trulia, Zillow. So the job listing is the real estate listing. So the job listing is there's a listing of jobs there where you can search it through list mode, or you can hit map mode. Okay. So smaller agencies, we have about 32 or 35 municipalities just in South Florida. Okay. Now everyone knows the big one, Miami. But people might not know about what Coral Gables is, or Homestead Police Department, or that there's a Miami Beach Police Department, or North Miami Beach Police Department. So they're not going to know about these smaller agencies. But if you open up the map mode and zoom in, you'll be able to see, oh, that's right there by the beach. So if you're looking to work in South Florida and you're from California, you can now just zoom in on a map, click on the red dot if they have the listing, and then you'll be able to see their listing and apply right through the app. Probably the most impressive thing about this app is that we created a ranking system.
Okay.
It's almost like college football where you're going to be putting up stats. So
Got it.
think of it almost like a Call of Duty where when you're going on missions and
Okay.
you're earning what's called badges, right? We made them badges, kind of police um, oriented.
Okay.
So each badge, we said, okay, we want to rank them top 100 recruits in each state and then 100 in the nation. So how do you do that? So I taught at the police academy. My partner in the business, he was the director of the police academy for several years. He has a PhD in education. So the guy's squared away. So we came up with a system. We said, there's 40 recruits that come into the academy. They start fresh. And then as an instructor, you look and say, one of these recruits is going to be the class leader. So how do we decide who's going to be the class leader? So we reverse engineered the class leader and started making badges for each of those qualities.
Okay.
So if we have a college degree, whether it be associates, bachelors, masters, doctors, there's points associated with each. So the more the higher degree, the more points you earn. If you're in the military, there's points associated for that. And we vet. You have to submit documentation, and we vet to ensure that it's correct, whatever that you're submitting. What else? They're physically fit, right? Class leaders are usually physically fit. So you run a mile, you get some points. Every day you can go in, earn some points. We also have test questions. There's a test bank of questions that revolve around police work, laws, and whatnot. We feed them 10 questions every week. They apply for the badge, they get the questions, boom. You can earn points that way. There's also video quiz questions. So the video quiz, you watch traffic stop or something, then we ask you questions about the traffic stop. It's usually going to be something that what I've done on the police vlogs episode, and then we'll ask questions, pertaining to why did the officer park their vehicle that way, and it's stuff that we explain. What color shirt was the driver wearing? Things like that. Things that they're going to see in the police academy.
I like it.
So we're essentially prepping these candidates for the police academy so that when they come, they're squared away to the police academy. What else? And all the documents that are submitted, the recruiters can look at.
Right.
So right now, the app is in the beta test mode. When this comes out, we should be live with it. Right now, there's about 600 plus recruits that are in there. The system's working. So the recruiters can DM the recruits. They message to each other, hey, is there anything else I can help you with? I saw you applied. On the flip side, when their recruit applies, the recruiter gets a notification, this person applied, or this person viewed your listing. You might want to go talk to them. So there's so much in this app. Yeah. It's going to change the way that police departments recruit across the nation. Wow. There's also a video tutorial library where you get, top 5 things you need to know about the oral board. Right now, I want to say there's about 10 videos in there. We aim to get about 100 videos. It's me pumping them out, but we're just educating and trying to prime these candidates, right? So that, in the future, they won't make the mistake and have to go to IA, right? So you can make sure that these candidates are squared away and they're ready to go. And like I said, there's nothing out there right now that's like this. And I believe that it's going to change. No, I know it's going to change the way that police departments recruit across the nation.
Super, super comprehensive, to say the least.
No, we thought we'd try to think of everything. We've been testing it now for about a month, and we've fixed little things here and there, buttoned some stuff up.
Okay.
And man, I can tell you that the recruiters that are on it are having a blast. It's shooting fish in a barrel, essentially. Yeah. Everyone who's on the app wants to be a police officer. Not only police, but dispatchers, community service aid. Crime scene techs, whatever it is that you're hiring for, boom, we put it on there, and then people start applying. It's working, man.
That's awesome, bro. Thanks for sharing. So essentially, about the only thing that's missing, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is just going through backgrounds and maybe a psych and medical.
Correct. So what we do is think of it. Imagine it's a CrossFit gym, and one of the exercises is doing test questions over there. But the recruiters can now come into that gym and just watch them perform. And now this is the first time in first place in the nation, the world, that you're going to be able to watch these people or recruits, potential applicants perform. Then you grab them by the hand, the recruiter grabs them by the hand, and they walk them out of the door. And once they walk them out of the door, then it's on them. So we're not doing any background investigation. We're kind of giving you the best look at the recruits as possible. So, but the psych, all that stuff, you're gonna have to do that on your own. We don't do that. No.
Right, no, I think it's great. The fact that you pretty much served it on a platter, man. You know, 5-course meal. You know, you got the fork. You know, you know, panko meal, right? I mean,
essentially, it's going to be up to these agencies to win over whoever it is. But it's like, hey, I'm going to have all the dirty coal face and everything, but I got the gold. You guys just pick, you know, because it's what everyone's looking for. They can't find applicants, right? What my hope is that there's an applicant here that has no idea about some police department in another part of the country that is willing to go, but that other part of the country can't recruit in their area because nobody over there wants to be a police officer. So now I can find the right, you know, square peg, square hole, start fitting people and moving them around. So now that can at least put a dent in this recruiting crisis that's going on across the nation.
100%, man. You're connecting the dots, and man, that's a great idea, bro.
Yeah.
I can tell you, and back in 1997 when I applied, you know, 798, shout out to my academy class, and the numbers still stick to me 27 years later. There used to be 1,000 applicants a month in LAPD, and they only took the best 5%. Out of the 5%, they only took the best 50%. Out of that 50%, they only took the best 50%. So essentially, you only end up with like maybe 10 out of the whole batch of that month. And you're right. Here we are, 2025. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, but LAPD it's not even close. I want to say maybe in the low hundreds, maybe 500, if that. There was an article not too long ago that said that recruitment has gone up, and the numbers were a little higher probably than what I mentioned, but recruitment is a crisis. I'm with you. 18 years ago, 27 years ago, it's not what it used to be. There's a lot of challenges. You got body-worn video. You got social media to deal with. So many hosts of what I believe, I'm not going to say they're obstacles, but there's so much to know, and you hit spot on when you said, hey, you know what? I live in this side of Florida, but I don't know that agency over there is hiring. And like you said, maybe around that neighborhood, no one wants to be a cop. And you're connecting those dots, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, the perfect example, and I would say like Central Florida, you know, that mid area, North Florida. They're like, we don't deal with ball caps and beards. So they want the, you know, clean shaven. You know, they want those squared away guys. So if there's somebody that maybe has some tattoos or something and wants to have their beard, they're not going to get a job in that area. Yeah. And so, but hey, maybe a little bit more south, they'll be able to find somebody's like, hey, we're good with ball caps. You come down here. So, you know, it's not for everyone, right? One agency, right. But again, I'll be able to put them where they need to go, and then that at least can have, you know, get another body on the street.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a good point, because the light bulb just hit about the fact that sometimes some agencies take longer than others. Would you agree? Right. So here you are in backgrounds. This happens a lot here in California. Well, at least in my experience, I was a lieutenant at a local Cal State University here, where hey, we did backgrounds for this one particular candidate that we wanted. It was a lateral, okay, but at the same time, he applied for UCLA PD, and next thing you know, by the time we call him and say, hey, we want to offer you a job, they're like, hey, you know, deuces, bro, I already got hired at UCLA PD. It happens a lot with LAPD as well, where, you know, the process takes so long to go through, and they're applying for Torrance, or applying for Hermosa Beach, or they're going to Anaheim PD. They're going to all these neighboring agencies, and they're just scooping them up. And you know, time is money, man. Right?
You're 1,000% correct. That's one of the problems that we have, you know, in law enforcement, is that some agencies, they take forever. Some agencies find out that you're in the process with one, and they're like, hey, we'll speed you up. Let's go. And they push them through. So, I mean, that's just the name of the game, right? For whatever reason, it may be just, hey, I have, like you said, 1,000 applicants, and I have a way bigger pool of candidates that I have to go through and sit through that background investigate. Versus this agency that has like 5. So they're gonna be able to speed through that. So unfortunately, just what it is. So the app actually alleviates some of this stuff in regards to communication, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the candidates that are on there, they're in the process with two agencies, and the recruiters can reach out through the app. We're also going to put Chat GPT AI in there to kind of knock out 9 of those 10 questions that they get.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm 18. Can I be a police officer? And it says 21 on their, what they have to be in order to become a police officer. So ChatGPT can knock out some of those, because that's some of the lack of communication is probably one of the most number one things why the recruits just jump ship and go somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
Just like you said with IA, that lack of communication. So people just don't like to be left in the dark, especially nowadays with this generation. They can find out anything and everything right now.
Yeah. No.
You're going to hold from them what's up next, or how did I do, or something like that. They're like, I'm out.
Yeah, no, totally. Hey, man, look, like you said, time is money too. If we're going to spend money getting a background investigator, kick them down some feria, bro. Hey, you got to get this down. And we do it, right? And we do it, right? And then all of a sudden that candidate says, yo, man, I'm out. I'm going to Miami-Dade. Okay. Well, shit, we just got done spending $1,400, $1,500 on a friggin' investigation. Great candidate, but, they beat us. That's another challenge and obstacle. So
that's got to suck. That's like a kick to the nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you and I, doing our thing, going to the bar, man. We just ordering up all these drinks, and next thing you know, we get kicked out.
I haven't drank my drinks yet.
Well, look, I got to change the mood a little bit because I ask all my guests this, and I got to ask you, worst incident in your career?
Speaking about a kick to the nuts, man, you really know how to bring a guy down. So I was a police academy instructor, and one of the blocks we come across was the PTSD that might come along with the job.
Uh-huh.
And I always thought, coming on, I always had this armor, and I was able to take any scene, the most horrific scene, and not be phased, because I put myself as the professional, the calm in the storm, the person that's supposed to have a handle on the situation, because when I show up, that's my job. So I was pretty good. I've been pretty good at having that armor, that plate of armor in front of me, and not let anything come in. There was one call. I just had my son. He was a little baby. So there was, I love being a dad. I always wanted to be a dad. So when I got my son, I poured my heart into my son.
Mm-hmm.
Went on to this one call, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. The one thing that kind of breaks any officer is when you think you got that armor, and then all of a sudden here it comes up, hey, buddy. I'm like, there it is. I've been waiting for this my whole career. Yep, you're going to cry right now. Like, man, like I found it. It was, I went on a scene. It was new parents. So when we go into the house, you see, basically, I saw my house, pictures of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
When you get newborn, there's pictures everywhere. So the pictures of the baby everywhere. And what happened was the father and mom,
mm-hmm.
they fell asleep in the bed. Dad rolls over, smothers the baby, kills the baby.
Mm.
So it's all starts sinking in, seeing the pictures, and you start putting yourself. It's one thing that I try not to do, is put myself in the situation of the person, because that's what I'm a professional. I can't do that right now. I have to deal with what I got on the scene. So it wasn't until, I started looking at the pictures. I went outside. That was probably the knife in the heart, was looking in the back of the fire rescue. And then you see the little guy getting worked on, little girl getting worked on, and you're just like, oh man. So I was like, yeah, buddy, time to go sit in the car. So I, go to the car, kind of looking at my baby's pictures, like, oh my God, what's happening right now? And the officers on the scene, they knew what time it was. They was like, oh, he's gonna go sit in the car or whatever. But that one right there shook me to where I was like, shit, this armor has a chink in it.
Yeah.
So that was when you really get little humble sauce poured on you. And I tell the recruits that too. I'm like, hey man, it's okay. Take your time, get your back up there to help you out, so you can go gather yourself to continue doing it. Because I was primary on there. I think they took me off of primary because I was like, "Ooh, wee."
Yeah, no,
That right there, that was a big one for me.
yeah, hey Nick, I really appreciate you sharing that. I can only add that I, as much as I don't like to ask the question, and as much as I do ask the question, is because that is police work. That is part of the career. You are going to be witnessing the worst that God has to offer, and these things
Yep.
stick with you for the rest of your life. You can agree with me. It's not about walking the old lady across the street. We can talk about TikTok cops some other time. It's not about that. It's this is what you signed up for. In addition to that, you and I can agree. You're going to work weekends. You're going to work graves. You're going to be away from your family, and you're going to work holidays. So I thank you for sharing that, brother. Look, we're almost towards the end. I got to ask, is there anything else that I missed about this app that I'm super excited about? And that I'm all over it, man. The IA guy is going to, I'm going to try to do whatever we're going to do. Talk to me.
No, nothing. The plan right now is to take over South Florida up to Florida. We got Georgia lined up. Then we're headed out your way. So we're going to be across the nation, hopefully within the next, within this year, across the nation and just take it to market and just grow, baby, grow. I can tell you there's a need for it, and I can tell you that it works. And I got goosebumps the first message I saw between the recruiter and the candidate. And man, I was like, holy shit, this is working. Yeah. The ranking system works. It's bringing up the people that are motivated, dedicated, that are qualified. They're earning their points. They're climbing the ranks. And the recruiters actually tell me, right now we have about 14 agencies that are participating in the beta phase. We should be a lot more, within the next month, so on and so forth, to grow exponentially. They're telling me that their workflow is, we also have a video intro that the recruits can do, 60-second video intro. So now I say, hello, I'm Nicholas Perez, 42 years old. I'm looking to become a law enforcement officer. This is my second career, so on and so forth. You get to hear the recruit speak. As a recruiter, that's huge. You get to hear how they present themselves. And right now we have, hundreds of videos of potential police officers inside the app. So this helps them out. So they go check out the recruits that are in the ranking, the top 100. That's their workflow. Top 100. Then they go to everybody who has a video, and then they move on and they search through, prior military, bachelor's degrees, things like that. But man, it's game changing. I know everyone says this is game changer, but this is game changer. There's nothing out here like this. Yeah. And I'm honored for you to let me come on to your podcast, your platform. I can't wait to have you on, and then kind of like break the news as the first podcast. I'm sure that's not going to be the last one that I come on and talk about it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that, man. Yep, you owe me a trip to LA here in the studio.
Yes,
we're gonna chop it up, and I got to go to Miami, man. I got to go. I got to go check you out. Hey, Nick, you know what? I'll leave you with this, man. I've been a big fan of yours since day one. You probably don't remember this, but I do. I had a conversation with your partner back in 2015 when you guys did that video for your police department. You busted out some windmills in the end. And you know what?
Running Man Challenge.
The Running Man Challenge. You had me at hello. And it was, I've watched you. I've learned a lot from you today. And again, just honored to have you on. You've been in the game for 10 years, and I'm just a rook, man, trying to move forward. And the best advice that I got from you, as humble as you are, is the fact that, you know what, I just chip away, man. And God bless me with so much success from the LAPD. But more than anything, this tour as a podcaster has been a blessing, man. And I'm glad that we connected, brother.
Bro, keep it up. You're crushing it. How far you come already from that first setup that we had. you're crushing it, and I can see you're making the right moves. You're doing the right thing. I'm super impressed. I just say keep it up, and and I know you mentioned, and I don't want to go too far, but I know you mentioned about the TikTok cop thing, and I kind of feel a little responsible for some of that. I was kind of a proponent with the Running Man challenge. It's kind of like Pandora's box that I opened it up, and I was like, oh man, I do feel a little responsible sometimes when I look at these police officers dancing in uniform. I'm like, this ain't it, bruh. This ain't it. But anyway.
Hey man, you and I can have a conversation about that some other time. And again, I'm taking you back 10 years ago, where I was impressed. But what you're doing now is just plain awesome, and I love it. Keep it up. We'll hook up soon, brother. Yes, it's time to say goodbye, and please, like always, be safe out there, and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.